Well, for more on Chinese-French relations, let's bring in Victor Gao. He's chair professor at Soochow University. Good evening, Victor. It's good to see you as always, and on this time, the same time zone.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm in Manhattan right now.
Wonderful. Victor, I want to start by asking you about the significance of President Xi's visit and also the symbolism. This is, after all, the 60th anniversary of Sino-French diplomatic relations.
Indeed, China and France are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and France. So the past 6 decades of close cooperation and friendship and people-to-people exchange between the Chinese people and the French people are very important. However, allow me to emphasize another point. That is, China-French friendship dated back way into the 1910s and 1920s, because at that time, France played host to thousands of aspiring young Chinese students, many of whom later became Chinese leaders, including Premier Zhou Enlai and Mr. Deng Xiaoping and quite a few others. That means France was the first place where the younger generation of Chinese opened their eyes and understood what the West was through France. And the experiences they brought back to China really helped eventually accelerate China's drive towards liberation eventually, as well as modernization in the subsequent decades. In that sense, I think there is a lot of gratitude among the Chinese people for what the China-French friendship meant throughout the decades. Now, this is the time to celebrate the 60th anniversary, of course, and preparing for the coming 6 new decades of cooperation between China and France. And they want to talk about not only bilateral issues, but also indeed climate change and other global challenges, including security issues involving, for example, the war in Ukraine. And given the fact that both France and China are permanent member states of the United Nations Security Council, and both of them have legitimate ownership of nuclear weapons, it gives them all the right to better understand each other, to promote mutual trust and minimize mistrust, and minimize misunderstanding between these two countries, in the firm belief that the firmer relations between China and France would be a stabilizing factor for better relations between China and EU as a whole. In that sense, we are so happy to see the two heads of state talking with each other in such amicable way and respecting each other and laying the groundwork for better understanding and better relations between China and France going forward.
Really important look at history right there. And you know, you bring up just these 2 major international world players, China and France, working together for decades now. President Xi spoke extensively on Monday about the need for China and EU to stand together as partners and to look towards a long-term future. What's your assessment of this message from President Xi, particularly in light of recent strains to the relationship because of trade disputes?
Indeed, from the Chinese perspective, Europe as a whole, EU in particular, and all the European countries are not enemies or adversaries or rivals or even competitors against China. China believes that there should not be a lot of geopolitical differences between China and Europe as a whole. And China wants to see an independent Europe, an independent EU, an EU and a Europe which is dedicated to serve the fundamental interests of the European people themselves. In that sense, better relations between China and Europe, better relations in terms of trade, economics, people-to-people exchanges, you name it, between China and Europe, China and European countries, especially important countries like France and Germany, will play crucial roles for a better Europe as well as a better China. Therefore, I think China is fully committed to promoting better understanding, friendship, greater trade and businesses between China and France and China and Europe as a whole. Now, from the European side, I personally hope they will talk less about geopolitics in their relations with China, and they will really focus on what matters the most. That is, promoting trade, promoting a better economic and people-to-people relations between China and Europe, and also both China and Europe maintain their own sanity and their own reason in engaging with each other on equal terms, rather than being distracted by many other ideological, geopolitical, or even Cold War mentality, which may actually poison China-European relations to the detriment of both China and Europe. Better relations based on better understanding and friendship between China and Europe will make the whole world a better world and a safer world.
Your insights, invaluable as always, Professor Victor Gao, Soochow University. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.